first pick.
Welcome back to a new season of On the Clock. Sponsored by Just Baseball as always. And guys, I want to thank everybody first off for a great ending to the 2026 season and the cycle that we had. Thank you to everybody that joined the Just Baseball stream that we did on draft day. I think it was over 30,000 of you guys that joined. So very appreciative for everybody that joined. And we're gonna make this more of a thing in 2027. So we're gonna start off with going over our summer recap for the year, and I'm going to be joined by two awesome gentlemen to my left and my right. First off, everybody knows Peyton Sauer. He did an incredible job doing all of the weekly data recaps this past spring. And we've got our newest member, Josh Catlett, to my right. So, Josh, I'm going to let you introduce yourself in case anybody is not aware of who you are or the work that you've done with us. So feel free to take the floor.
Yeah. Yourself, I'm Josh. I have worked in the past with Auburn baseball with Peyton a couple years back. Spent time with Prospects Live last year, done draft stuff and college baseball stuff. I'll be doing the same thing here, college baseball show and this. Looking really forward to the year. It's been a long time coming. I've been talking to Peyton about this for a little bit, Jared about it for a little bit. When I met Tyler and Charlotte this year, we discussed it a little bit. It's been a long time coming thing. I'm excited for it though. I mean, there's a lot of good work that was done here last year that I saw from afar. And so I'm excited to be, whether a big or a small role, I'm excited to be a part of it this year. And, whether it comes to writing or podcasting or whatever it may be, excited to see what we can do and how we can grow this thing even more than it was in the past year or 2 years.
Yeah, man, we're excited as well to have you. And it's going to be a fun year, I feel like, even though, obviously there's so much going on with the murky waters of the CBA and, what could transpire in this offseason. But the same token, I have no idea how much this is going to affect us or our work. So I think that's more or less our time to shine on that front. So, and also at the same token, having two Auburn guys works perfectly. The chemistry is already there. This is going to be a fun podcast. So, first off for you guys, when we're looking at this 2027 class, and mind you, we've been to all three of us combined have been to a ton of events. I did collegiate national team, all the USA stuff. Peyton has gone to East Coast Pro, so is Josh, and then also Peyton did the All-American game for PG this past weekend. So we've gotten a good feel for this class and with a lot of looks. And what's the biggest thing that's really stood out to either one of you guys so far on either side, really?
I'll start. So immediately that comes to mind is the amount of athletes that are at the top of the board. When we think about prep shortstops per se, obviously the first couple names are going to be Seward. They're going to be Graham Houston. It's going to be Malachi Butler. But even when you go down the list, it's Max Hemingway. It's Grady Grant. It's Juan Diaz. I mean, you can go on and on and on. Isaiah Snavely. So it's just a bunch of guys that are just very well-rounded and just are intriguing athletes to follow.
Yeah, I would say that a couple things as a whole have stuck out to me. Peyton took my main thing, even just seeing a lot of the prep guys in person and a lot of the big name 27 college guys for this upcoming year. The sheer athleticism jumps off the page more than I've seen a lot in the past few draft classes. Just across the board, the athlete is bigger than usual this year. But even just the state of the class as a whole, it's a little different. I know coming into last year, we were saying that the 26 class seemed like it was going to be the best class, at least the best college class on paper since at least 2023, if not further back. This year, it's not really like that, but it's almost the same kind of dynamic where last year, if you look at the top of the college class, it was, I know it didn't start this way necessarily, but it ended this way. It was Jackson Flora seen as a top 10 college guy, and then a huge gap between him and the next pitcher. It was a lot of college bats, and I now in hindsight realize what I just said was I said it wrong. This year it's different than that because it's a good mix at the top where I think a lot of people, I don't know how y'all feel about this, I think a lot of people view Dax Whitney as the top college arm regardless of the injury, but then there's also a cluster of guys beyond him. It's like your Ryan McPherson's of the world and Chris Lavonis, Tomas Valinkas. And you didn't see a lot of that last year. It was super bat heavy and some of the best bats we've seen in a long time. Granted, there were some There are some really, really good bats at the top this year. Brendan Lawson, Gavin Kelly, Landon Hairston. But the state of the class as a whole is definitely just different. And even prep guys, it's like there's a lot more talented bats at the top, I think, than last year. We saw some arms fly off the board late first round last year for the prep guys. You could see them go a little higher off the board this year based on some of the emerging guys we've seen over the past month or two.
Yeah, I agree. And then like what you mentioned too of like looking at the college class a year ago where like I would say there was good pitching depth on the college side, but definitely not enough high end talent. I think this year is the complete opposite, where there is definitely a lot of higher end talent, like you mentioned, Dax Whitney, regardless of the injury, is going to be a top 10 to 15 pick. You know, I feel very confident slapping that label on a guy like that who isn't going to necessarily pitch in 2027. Just talking to guys at the field this past summer, like, you know, if he was at USA this year and was completely healthy, I think there is a legitimate chance that like he would be number one on everybody's board right now. Like I think that is exactly where it would be. So, you know, I think that kind of like encapsulates the full class. And even looking at the prep guys too, like for me, I don't know if anybody usurps like a Grady Emerson type this year. Maybe Dylan Seward can. I just want to see a little bit more with the hit tool, but you know, I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Do you believe that there is a prep guy that can be a Grady Emerson type in this class this year, or is it kind of just like, do we have a not necessarily a tier below, but like a tier 1A and 1B in comparison to the classes?
Yeah, you take this.
Yeah, so I don't know, and I think that's kind of how like the whole field may seem on that as well, but I think that's a good thing. I think that could be a good thing because it allows these guys to kind of just like, you know, make their mark per se. Like, you know, we know all these guys can hit, like Carter Hadnot and Graham Houston. I mentioned Snavely again. So, and look, we've got a long way to go before the 27 draft, but I'm interested to just kind of see how it all plays out.
I'll say a couple of short things on this. First of all, you say that about Emerson, us maybe not having a guy like him this year. If you remember correctly, at this time last year, even into like February, March, it wasn't just Emerson. There were the Emerson Lombard debates day in and day out from people. And it wasn't just an Emerson thing. He just emerged throughout the season as the clear number one guy. My second thing I'll say, I'll keep this very short. Later in the episode, I'll touch on more if I think Dylan Seward can go pole to pole or not, because I don't really know if it's entirely. I mean, it's definitely possible. I'm not sure if it's likely, but I'll touch more on that later.
Okay. I like that. And like speaking of Dylan Seward, you know, insane tools. I think obviously we talked about Lombard last year, where you know, plus athlete really can pick it at shortstop. You know, powers there. I think Seward does have a little bit of Lombard to him in terms of the athleticism and, you know, the run times, the defender himself. Like, you can put him at shortstop, you can put him in center field. I think he's a plus defender at every position at this stage, or like for both positions. But obviously have to worry a little bit about the hit tool, which I think is kind of what keeps me a little bit skeptical right now, from placing him like number one in the class as a whole. But you know, let's talk about some more high school guys, because again, obviously we've been to a lot of events this year. Peyton, I want to start with you. You know, who are some bats that have really stuck out to you in your viewings, and who are guys that, like, you know, maybe they're a little bit under the radar and they can kind of fly up boards here over the next couple of months?
Yeah. So a guy that immediately comes to mind, I mentioned him earlier, but Isaiah Snavely, man, there's so much to like with him. 6'3", I believe, is what he got measured at in Hoover. Shortstop, but can play all over the dirt. Mostly got looks at shortstop. I believe he's a shortstop at the next level. Probably maneuver between there and short. Start out with a bang. Day 2 at East Coast Pro, 96, 363. So the pull side, I believe that's what happened. Also got a 94 EV. He saw a ton of velo as well and did well against it. Swing decisions were well. Believe he was a Wake Forest commit literally 2 or 3 days before the event kicked off, and then like 2 days later just committed to A&M. Swing works, man. It's tight. It's long levers. He pulls the baseball. I was looking at his PG summer circuit stats and his batted ball data. Granted, I understand that, not everybody he's facing is 89, 91 with a hard breaking ball. He pulled the baseball over 50% this summer. And it's just like, wow. So yeah. Let's see who else. Recapping East Coast Pro, like he only got 1 hit, but Jordan Griffin just does about everything you can do. Josh, you might have to help me out here, but like he had like 5 walks.
It was something like that. I know he ended off the weekend on, I think that day that I was there and you weren't, it was when he connected on, how many hits did he have from the week? It was only like, I want to say, was it just the one? It might have been.
I think it was 1.
Yeah, and he connected on it that last day.
That last day.
Monday. But yeah, his discipline was really stood out.
Yeah, 2 defensive snags, 2 in Hoover. He got a barrel in Philly this past weekend. Just a headache on the base pass. He, 6'4" runner, I believe. I don't have the actual, test in front of me, but again, just an athlete.
6'6".
Yeah, 6'6". Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Snavely and Griffin. Absolutely.
That's a very good duo right there, and they're both. I would say, yeah, I know Griffin's from Alfred M. Barbie in Louisiana. That's a school. If you've gone back a couple years in the draft, that's produced quite a few guys.
Powerhouse.
Yeah, and I believe Snavely's the same way. R. Nelson Snyder, who I think they had Brandon Logan a couple years ago, who is now at Notre Dame and was a 2-sport athlete, looks really, really good as a baseball player. So these powerhouse programs across the country just really find a way to keep pushing guys out and on these summer circuits. So Josh, now that Peyton has talked about the guys that he likes, how about you? Who do we have on your board?
Yeah, I'll talk about a couple bats that really stood out to me. First and foremost, I teased this earlier. There's been a lot of talk about, can Dylan Seward go 1-1 pole to pole on the prep side of things. I'm not sure we should really be so sure about that. I think we should pump the brakes a little bit. That's not to say this guy is going to be the number 1 overall guy in the class, but I think there are some contenders, and this is a high one. Malachi Butler. He stood out to me. I know, Tyler, you're a big fan. You've talked about him in the past. It's hard not to be impressed when you see what he does on the field, especially in Hoover, what he did. He's 6'3", I want to say 190. He's a Georgia guy, Georgia Tech commit. You don't see a lot of like super highly touted Georgia Tech commits these days, so that's something too. He's left-handed. The athleticism really stood out, like I said, like a lot of these guys. He's a near lock to be a long-term shortstop. The lateral range, the smooth transfers that he showed, I think is kind of giving him a shoe-in to be in that position long-term. Everything just moves so fluidly. On the offensive side, the hit tool is definitely the selling point. He's had elite contact rates 2 summers in a row. He doesn't miss the ball very often. He's got a weird little hand thing pre-load where it's like he gets to his spot when he's actually swinging the bat, but it's like a weird, like hands kind of held back, like dysfunctional here, but like preload, he gets to a spot where he needs to, and everything just moves so fluidly in the swing. It's connected. The barrel feel very much comes with the profile too. He popped, I think, 3 90 EV hits in Hoover. All 3 of his hits actually were 90 EV. And that number, or 90 EV plus, I should say. And that number doesn't exactly sound, like the gaudiest numbers to some people when it comes to EVs, but you have to remember they're swinging wood at these events, and they're used to swinging metal, and they would do it through college. They're also 17 years old. So swinging wood at 17 years old, if you're consistently putting out 90 EVs when you're actually making contact with the ball, says a lot. It's only like 45 grade-ish run times that we tracked, but the athleticism is still there. It's super dynamic across the board. I think there's a really good chance for him to be top 10 pick, if not higher, come next July. The other guy I'll hit on, he started to get some helium lately after the summer circuit, and rightfully so. I see why. He stood out immediately in my first look at him on that Saturday. Jake Cueto. He 6 foot, 180-ish smaller guy from Miami. He's an outfielder, lots of range out there. He's also left-handed, big athlete. And when I say big, I don't mean frame. It's just like the traits really stand out. It's a wide base at the plate, connected swing, very patient approach. He took his walks on the week. Really great contact rates, like a lot of solid contact has been made everywhere that he's been. I only saw it the one time in person, but everything I've seen, watched, read on, whatever, has shown that the contact translates from place to place against all this high-level prep competition across the board. The way with his swing, he keeps his barrel through the zone more than most people I've seen at that point, for sure. It's the way like he stays behind the ball and gets his hands and barrel through and sticks out there. And it shows when he makes contact with the ball. There's been lots and lots of high upside results come off his bat. And we saw it in Hoover, flashes some pop on occasion with that. The run times are above average. I think it's a real like lead off center field type of profile long term. Just your stereotypical lefty center fielder that's quick. He's going to get on base, pop one to the left side of the infield, cover a lot of ground in center field. I think it's a really high floor profile. That's the thing. I think there is definitely some upside potential for sure, but the floor is high, and I think you're getting a really safe bet with Jake Cueto.
I like the little table setter profiles too. Like Cueto, I think you can throw out Charlie Sarsfield, who, he doesn't play a ton on the summer circuit, and that's mainly because the way Iowa works, they start super late in the year. They're in the playoffs in July, so Iowa kids don't necessarily get the kind of pop that other kids get on the summer circuit. But those two guys really stand out for me as like the high school high floor table setter profiles who can play center field and just be absolute pests on the base paths. Like, I think that's the best way to describe these kind of guys who they create value with their legs, and at the same token you get them to run into doubles power, or maybe even get like some of these guys can start getting the over fence power to the pull side. I think it's a fantastic get for anybody when we're looking at a draft class, a year from now. So say like, drafts tomorrow, and we're talking about these guys, like, hey, this is absolutely what I would take. Maybe not first round, but like, second or third round is like your second or third pick to kind of maneuver the draft strategy a little bit. So those guys are always great. And like Malachi Butler too, like another thing that stands out, you mentioned obviously the bat to ball skills and the ability to use both sides of the yard. He's growing into more power this year. I remember he took deep Andres Jimenez, who, Parkview High School in Georgia. That's another powerhouse in the country.
South Carolina commit.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to remember. It was like a hanging changeup, I think, or something like that Malachi just smoked to his pole side. And that's something he's never really done in his high school career. It's been a lot of oppo pop and oppo ability, but at the same token, like, you get him to pull the ball more. I think there's average power in there, maybe even more. He is a bigger kid, so I don't know how much more projection you get from a guy like that who is 6'3", 190, but you get to that power, man. It's impressive.
Yeah, I'll say in a sense it reminds me of, like, I'm not calling him Grady Emerson by any means, but it reminds me in a sense of, like, left-handed bat that has a clear future at shortstop, and the contact rates, like, it's definitely a hit over power profile, but the power has like some potential in the future. I think Emerson's power obviously has a little more upside, but it's a similar, the athleticism is kind of what stands out the most, and you're going to bank on the athlete more than anything. But you have a reliable hit tool. The contact rates, like I mentioned, they're going to stay high throughout whichever level of baseball he plays at, probably. And so it's like I said, definitely he's not Grady Emerson, but if you're going to talk about like a top 10, top 15 overall pick with those kind of traits. The similarities are definitely there.
I dig it, man. I dig it. So I'll even, chime in with 3 guys of my own. I understand you guys did 2. I'm going to do 3 because I just feel like I've been around the prep guys too much this year. And there's a few guys that deserve some mention. So the first one I want to talk about, Juan Diaz. IMG Academy kid. He was committed to Florida State. I don't think he's committed there anymore. I think he's one of the top uncommitted guys in the class now. But, true switch hitter with, again, the high athleticism, the really, really good speed. He can pick it at shortstop, which, it's a big thing for me is watching a guy who has that kind of body control at shortstop. He can stop on the dime, turn his body, be able to throw across the diamond. Maybe the arm strafe is better suited for second base, but I think at the end of the day, you let him play shortstop until he proves to you that he can't. And I would say it's double plus speed. The contact ability from both sides is outrageously good. He's going to be the kind of guy that, again, becomes a pest for the infield defense. He's going to put it in play, but when he gets to his power, I think there's definitely something there. Maybe his fringe average power at the end of the day, but overall, it's a very good player. I would say there's definitely a floor here with the glove and the ability to make contact. So you kind of let everything else fall into place there. And looking at some of the other guys in the class, I think he just fits in with one of the top guys, top 5, top 10 in class, personally for me. Then you look at a guy like Brady Cunningham, who big kid. He's like 6'3", 225, 230. I would say you can lean the frame up a little bit. I was talking to Joe Doyle at Overslot and a couple of his guys in Long Beach. But if you get him to like 6'3", 215, 220 and kind of, maybe get rid of the baby fat a little bit, if you want to call it that, I think the athleticism and the mobility works perfectly fine at third base. He really does move well for his size already. So if you lean it up, I think it does get a little bit better. And also at the same token, you might have plus or better power from the right side, which teams are definitely prioritizing left-handed hitters nowadays in the draft. I think that's been pretty obvious for a little bit now. But when you run into a guy that I'd say the comp that I would put on him, Chris Bryant-esque a little bit, very easy power. I'd say it plays to both sides of the yard. He hit a ball at 104, 380 in Long Beach, and that park is not a hitter's haven. I can tell you that for free. And there's another one he hit to almost the same exact spot, same exact exit velocity. So he was doing a very, very good job of showing off the power. And then there's a field to hit there as well. So this is a guy that, he runs very well too for his size. I think he was like a 6'4", 6'5" runner when they did testing at PG National. I could be mistaken on that, but you get a guy moving that fast with that kind of power, you can be left-handed or right-handed. I'm going to take you, 10 times out of 10 on that one, and twice on Sunday if you really want to put it out there. So I'm really high on Brady Cunningham, but I think the guy I'm highest on, Jack Leeper, St. Francis, NorCal. He was the MVP of area codes for a reason. I believe he had a 3 or 4 hit game I think it was 3 hits in the championship game, and he was a home run shy of the cycle, if I remember correctly. And this guy can just hit. I think when you look at the hand load, there's a bit of some, wonkiness to it, I guess. Like his hands kind of get set and it does a little twirl and then goes. But when I tell you this is a guy that could hit on the top rail of the strike zone, I am firmly in belief of this because the bat enters the zone very flat, and that is a key indicator of a kid that can hit on the top rail or higher. He hit a ball at 100 that was basically at his eyes, and I understand you probably shouldn't be swinging at those pitches most of the time, but when you have the bat the ball skills that Leeper has, screw it. That swing works well. He popped a 110 on a foul ball, which hardest hit ball of the event. And yes, it was a foul ball, but it was pretty legit. He pulled on an inside fastball, probably missed being fair by 5 to 10 feet, but it's a guy that you look at and you just know he's a guy that could be in a big league uniform in a few years. Size is there. He can play center field pretty well. He runs very well. there's power in the tank. I think there is a legitimate case that Jack Leeper could be the best outfielder in this class on the prep side. And at the same token, like, yes, he's a right Stanford commit. That's going to knock him up a little bit when you look at, obviously Stanford, super tough to get kids to kind of decommit from and go to the draft. I think they only had one kid this past draft in Tyler Spangler that got drafted and signed. So, that's a battle in and of itself, but I think the talent is just too good to pass up on a guy like that.
Yeah, I think that, you touched on it a little bit. I think with Leeper, I hate that I haven't seen him in person because all I've heard about him is that he's the MVP of the summer. And like you took the words out of my mouth almost, or not my mouth, everyone else's mouth. Everyone said the same exact thing about Jack Leeper. All he does is hit. You said it, and that's all everyone says because apparently it's true. And I hate that I haven't seen it in person. It's irritating. But Juan Diaz was really impressive in Hoover too, I will say. I think, if I remember correctly, I can probably check. I think it was like 6.4 run times. It was plus the double plus run times here. Just, kind of like we talked about. We've said it multiple times on this podcast by now. It's left-handed bats with a lot of athleticism, and that's kind of where things are going these days. Pro organizations seem to be leaning towards contact rates and left-handedness, and it's those traits you kind of want to value this year, I think, or I'm going to try and personally value in evaluations this year because the past couple of years have shown we're going that direction. And there have been some prep guys that for sure have really put on a show on that front this summer that are raising some eyebrows for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I understand none of the guys that I showed off are like true left-handed hitters, but like, I think you can also still look at a right-handed hitter and kind of look at like, hey, we're kind of undervaluing this aspect of hitting now. I'm not saying that right-handed hitters are becoming, a rare breed per se, or they're going extinct, but like, I think we kind of look back on it in a couple of years and go, hey, like there's something still to take from this kind of bat at the next level. So let's see what we can do with this. And maybe there's another surge in right-handed draftees moving forward. So it's a fun discussion topic, I feel like, maybe for another episode, but again, the league has gone away from the right-handed bats to left-handed bats, but I still think flowers are deserved for some of these right-handed guys that have legitimate tools. This is not they're big performers and they haven't really flashed anything big, but these guys have done both performance and also just flashed a ton of tools at every single stop. So, I think the high school bats class this year is actually pretty interesting overall. I don't think we get to a point where like this is an all-time class like 2023, but I think there's some solid depth on this class in general, and there's some good shortstops in this class too. So take that and have some fun with it, if you will. So moving on to the arms, I talking to a couple guys, I don't know how to evaluate the full scale of this high school pitching class quite yet. I think there's a lot of throwers and not a ton of pitchers personally. But there's definitely a lot of like loud arsenals to kind of go through. So I want to start with you, Peyton, since you started off on the bats. Who stuck out to you this summer that you think has a legitimate chance to skip campus and go straight to the minor leagues?
Yeah. So ironically enough, the three I added one more late, but initially the two that I had are two ways. It was really hard to ignore what Chase Fuller did in his one inning. Josh, I believe it was the last inning of the last game on day 2.
It was like Saturday or Sunday. Yeah.
Saturday or Sunday over the weekend.
Yeah.
And look, I'll give him credit. Like, Chase Fuller's a two-way guy. He's been playing, getting a couple at bats before, and he comes in and throws, 99. 3-pitch mix from what we saw. Again, fastball 96, 99. It's some run ride traits in there, but he locates it well. Obviously misses bats. I think what I really like about Chase is like he's got 2 distinct off-speed pitches. Like his changeup is an upper 80s weapon, uses it against lefties when a heading counts. Just really good dive. uses the same arm intention, like when he's driving down the mound. And then his slider, man, it's just it got some pretty good sweep on it. He would throw it against righties. And again, just compared to, getting a mid to upper 90s heater up in the zone, it's just like, holy smokes. Other guy I want to mention is Brogan Witcher. Again, a two-way guy. I want to shout him out in Philadelphia. He was the starting catcher for Team West. Threw a guy out. He threw out Kenyon Bastion, and it was like by a step and a half. I mean, it is legitness behind the dish. But going back to on the mound, it's 4 pitches. It's 2 distinct breaking balls with true shapes. Four-seam gets really good ride. I think I saw some is like 2,700 on the heater. Commands it really well. Again, top rail. Good luck. See if you can hit it. Changeup gets a little bit of offset from it. Pretty decent command. Slider's a true sweeper. Curveball is, a 2-plane pitch. Curveball is in the upper 70s, I believe, and the slider kind of sits around, 80, 83. Last guy I want to mention is Chris Grosso. Through 2 innings at East Coast Pro. It was over like 70% strikes. I mean, he just filled up the zone. It was a 5-pitch mix, 2 heaters, 4-seam again, just like run ride. I think I had it like over 80% strikes. Again, 2 innings, but when you're going up against that type of competition in front of those kinds of people, it's hard to ignore that type of stuff. Sinker again, gets a little bit more sink. Change up is just more like a kick change type thing, or it might be a splitter. Just kill spin, drops off the table. Sweeper that just got hard glove side action with some lift, and then the curveball that gets a little bit more depth and just a little bit more downward action. I don't mean to steal you guys' thunder, because I know a couple of you guys, or both of you guys, there's 3 of us in here, are going to talk about some of these guys. But I want to shout out the first 7 pitchers in the All-American game. 3.5 innings, 12 strikeouts. Again, it's just like what Tyler said. It's loud arsenals. It is see if you can hit it, and let's see what happens. And just going down the list, it was Striker Pence, Salerno, George Ferguson, Samir Muhammad, Ethan Gustis, Liam Doherty, and Andrew Carlson. So yeah. So to close with me, Witcher, Fuller, Chris Grosso. Those are my 3 guys.
I dig it. And Grosso, like you mentioned it too, with the breaking ball, went to area codes literally like 5 days after East Coast Pro, basically. And
yeah,
like just straight the same deal, up to 2,900 RPMs a spin. Like it was like 82, 84, I do believe, on the sweeper, but I haven't seen a ton of sweepers have that kind of action with that kind of lift as well in the prep side. So it's an advanced pitch. I like to see how guys kind of value that moving forward with that sinker sweeper mix for a high school guy, but it's pretty legit. Had the loudest second half of the summer of any arm personally that I was able to see. So hopefully we'll see what happens with Miami commit from Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. Josh, who do you have?
Yeah, I think, one thing I'll say first is that I know Peyton talked about, Chase Fuller's last inning at East Coast Pro. I think you can hear it on the film I posted on Twitter. In that last inning, Chase Fuller was trying to, or everyone wanted him to try and hit 100. And so you can hear like the dugout. It's late in the night. We had gone like 4 games at that point. Everyone's just like
12 plus hours.
Yeah, everyone's tired. And everyone's seeing 98s, 99s pop on the Jumbotron up there, and everyone's trying to get him to go for 100. One of the pitches you can hear on my film, I think, he hits 99, and you can hear the ball hit the backstop because everyone before he throws it's going like, oh, and then it just like doesn't work out. But it was so funny. Peyton mentioned my first guy with one of the first 3.5 inning guys at PG All-American, Samir Muhammad. he was, in my opinion, the most impressive guy I saw all weekend in Hoover.
Yeah.
There were other guys like Salerno and a guy that I'll talk about next. And there were a lot of good arms at East Coast Pro, but Muhammad jumped off the page as top of the first round guy to me. It's a workhorse frame, 6'5", 235, 240, 245, somewhere in there, big guy. The arm slot's a little low 3/4-y, but the fastball ends up sitting 95, 98 throughout the entire outing. Actually, if I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure the 97s and the 98s came more at the end of his outing than the beginning. Like the velo ramped up throughout it, actually. The ride run traits weren't huge, but that's not always essential in prep guys. Obviously, that's something that can be developed. You're looking for more intangible stuff and just some clay from these 17-year-old guys. It's a plus if they have it, but it's whatever if they don't. He commanded the fastball with precision at the top of the zone, though. He was just peppering the top black the entire day. You love to see that kind of command out of a young guy, too, especially when it's that stuffy. You really love to see a guy that can compare command with high velo at the age of 17. The changeup is maybe his best pitch, maybe more than the fastball. The velo drop-off is massive. It was like 83, 84 the entire outing. It dropped below the x-axis in terms of dive in a couple innings. He got swing and miss on all 4 changeups that he threw and that were offered at. I think the other ones mostly landed for strikes, but the ones that were swung at all swung and miss, which just goes to show you, especially later in that second inning, when you're using the same arm action for a 98-mile-an-hour pitch, and then you're going to throw one that looks just like it at 84 miles an hour, you're probably not touching that. He also mixes in 2 breaking balls. It's like a upper 80s gyro slider and then like a slurvy low 80s curveball. There's big spin capacity on the curveball. It could be a plus pitch, honestly, if he gains feel for it in the future and shows an ability to actually work it in a little bit more instead of just being like 80% fastball changeup. There's potential there. And the upside is immense with him. I talked about a high floor guy earlier, and I think there is some value in high floor guys. But there's a lot of philosophy, I think, in draft rooms, and I think I kind of subscribe to this too, where if you're going to be rewarded with a high pick in the first round, you shouldn't be going for high floor guys. Take the guy that can change your franchise. And I think Samir Muhammad has the upside of that truly. The next arm I'll talk about is I've talked about him so much. I think both of you and even some other people that you're probably tired of it, but I really feel this way. I don't know why he's not getting more hype than he is, even after his outings. Isaac Vidal, who's from Miami, committed to Miami. A lot of people don't even have him like ranked or in top 100s, top 150s, whatever. I have him as like personally a top 50, maybe even like top 30 prep guy. And that sounds outlandish. I really don't think so, because I don't see what is fully not to like besides like the frame. He's like 6'1", 200. It's like he's built like Gabe Gackle pretty much. And he was, seen as a first round pick at this time last year. And granted, he fell to it's like pick 73 this year, I think. So you can still get stuff out of that, obviously. But that's like the build when he walks on the mound doesn't, blow you away. But the stuff does. And what he actually does on the mound blows you away. It blew me away. It's a composed operation, low 3/4-y with the slot, kind of like Muhammad. I think Peyton and I have gone back and forth over this. I've talked to Tyler about it too. I think he threw 5 pitches at East Coast Pro. It looks to me like he threw 5 different pitches. It might just be 4. But for the sake of me pushing some propaganda and letting my agendas flow, I'm going to say he threw 5 pitches. It's 2 different fastball shapes. It's a 4-seam that sat like 93, 97 with big cut ride shape and carry. It's like a lower 90s 2-seam. Not very dynamic at this point, but it's different. It's very clearly a different pitch, and you're getting different shapes that are going to hit the bat in a different way coming out of the same slot. And so that can be developed. He can get that velo up, I believe. Both of the fastballs jump on batters, though. It's big, 6'2" extension, which is just a plus for a guy that's touching 97 in these outings at the age of 17. Extending down the mound, it's going to jump on batters like that more frequently. He had a mid-80s slider, had huge sweep, plus spin trait and spin capacity. It induced egregious chase. Like, there were some whiffs on the pitch that were way, way outside of the zone. And guys that have been shown to have really disciplined approaches just were not seeing out of the hand well, and he was getting ridiculous chase from it. He tossed a couple changeups in there too with feel and command for him. This is where we differ. I think he threw a sweeper. It looks like a sweeper to me from what I can tell. The depth is very clearly different than the other sliders he threw. It's also about like 2 miles an hour slower than the sliders, which is about right for a sweeper compared to a slider. So like, if it's just a one-off pitch and I'm wrong, it's still 4 pitches that I like. But if not, 5 pitches at the age of 17, sitting mid-90s with the fastball, with conviction, with poise, with sound mechanics. Like, there's a lot to like there. And I will continue to be high on him, I think, throughout the cycle because I was blown away. And I've talked to people who saw him in other places that also like what they saw. I think there's truly a lot to like there. I did see – I think about this now after I say it. When we were – recording the college baseball show a couple of nights ago, there was a guy in the live chat that was saying, like, I don't know what he thought we were doing. He might have thought it was a draft pod. He was saying, like, make sure to hype up the Miami commits because I want them to – make sure to talk bad about the Miami commits because I want them to actually make it to campus. And here today, 2 of my 4 guys are Miami commits, and we just talked about Grasso, and I just don't think it's going to work out on that front. I like that recruiting class. We'll see if they make it to campus, but they've done a lot of good work down there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Miami does a good job of recruiting. And like even in this day of age where like high
Jake
school
Guido.
Yes, actually, forgot about that too. But like you kind of look at too like the NIL landscape and everything, like scouting directors kind of had to wade through, these kids are being offered NIL to go to college, and obviously they're trying to one up it with signing them to pro organizations to develop and turn them into big leaguers. So it's definitely an interesting power grab per se with NIL now. And like you look at it now too, you get 5 for 5 now. There's going to be a lot of rule changes ongoing. And say hypothetically, we get to a point where, there's no such thing as high school eligibility, which again, said it before on record, don't want that to happen. But if it does happen, now you're looking at such a giant logjam in an era where high school recruiting isn't as big as it was a few years ago, like pre-COVID, I would say. The portal is definitely taking over nowadays, and it's definitely become a lot more of a priority to coaches, in my opinion. But again, that's another discussion for another day. But like, I wouldn't close the door on some of these guys making it to Miami, but they've been too good at this point to really say for sure. But they just do a really good job recruiting down there. So gotta give Miami props for what they're able to do. I kind of want to talk about some 3 guys myself. And, there's, speaking of guys that touch or trying to touch 100, Ethan Gustis, Roseville, California, Vanderbilt commit. This is a guy that last year was like 89, 92, super lanky, super flexible. I believe Oliver Bochter told me this is like a Jackson Flora type arm, and I see it. Like, it's very fluid, very flexible deliveries, very athletic. He has gone from the aforementioned 89, 92 to now he was sitting 94, 97 at USA. And then the first inning at area codes, 96 to 99, he hit 100 at least once. He may have hit it twice. And he was pumping the strikes just routinely, repeats his mechanics well. He did lose some fastball command later on and kind of sat more of like, 3 to 6, but high spin fastball with carry. You look at the arm speed, it's fantastic. This is a guy that could just end up sitting 96, 99 in a couple years with more development. And the slider is legit. I think there's good snap to it. It's got a good sweep. He's able to locate it well on the outer half and the outer black to right-handed hitters, and they just really struggle to see it out of the hand sometimes. and there's feel for a changeup where, it's kind of firm, but kills spin on it. It has good fade. I would say that there's at least 3 average or better pitches here. I would say slider above average. Fastball is easy plus right now, just based on velocity alone. And the ability to command a strike zone stands out. And this is a guy that is going to add a lot of weight to his frame. He's like 6'6", 192 right now. There is a legitimate chance that he does end up sitting closer to 100 in due time, whether that's at Vanderbilt or if it's, in a minor league organization. He's going to be a guy to watch for a little bit. And I'm pretty high on him. I want to see how the development kind of moves forward, but he looks very, very solid from what I've seen the past couple months. Outside of him, I'm going to have to talk about Andrew Carlson, who Peyton had mentioned before from the PG All-American game. I believe you said he was the last guy that threw, Peyton. So I want to talk about him because he is a quarterback. He's QB1 at his high school. But at the same token, I think the mound presence, the size, and the traits out of the hand are too impressive to pass up if you're a scout, because it's a steep plane to the plate, 93, 96 with the fastball. He's not going to miss a ton of bats, but it's a ground ball inducer. It's a guy that is going to command the zone well, has the velo to miss bats at the present, and he can definitely go into more. I think there's some mechanical tweaks you can make to him to get into his lower half a bit more. But, it's a very solid fastball at the present, has a decent low 80s breaking ball that has some snap to it, lands it for strikes, but it's a changeup, and I might even say change-ups that really stand out. Like, I think there's a traditional change and maybe even a splitter in there. And guys are kind of moving towards that a little bit more too. There's a lot of guys that have these 2 changeups. I think Matt Scott, before he went to Georgia, was a 2 changeup guy. And I would say the splitter's the better of the 2 changeups for Carlson. It's the upper 70s, low 80s, so he's got the velo separation. It just hits the brakes and dives away from the batter. It uses it to both sides of the plate, both handedness. There's confidence in the pitch. That's something I love to see with a changeup, because you don't find a ton of guys that have those kind of traits, at this level. Throwing right on changeups like that is pretty difficult. So, Carlson, I think, is going to be a guy to watch. I would say day 1 arm for sure. In terms of what round, I have no idea as of yet, but he is a guy to really watch this year. And if I remember correctly, he is a TCU commit, and TCU has a really, really good stable of recruits this year. So shout out to Sarlos and Delora on that one. The last guy I want to touch on, and I would say there's a case that he is the best prep arm in this class, George Ferguson. Big size, he hides the ball very well. There's some weird head movements with his delivery that I think should be ironed out, but it's a lot. I would say it's reduced from last year when watching film, and the slider's gotten a grade or 2 better. I think it's a potential above averages plus pitch with really good spin rates. It's a tight shape. It just 2-plane break. It snaps really, really hard, but it's a plus changeup, which it's a low spin arsenal, or not low spin arsenal, but low spin pitch. Commands it very, very well against left-handed hitters. It's always located below the zone and away from guys. They just really can't see it out of the hand. And then you get the fastball, where he's been up to 98 this summer. High spin rates. Like we mentioned, Brogan Witcher having a spin rate on the fastball of 2,700. Ferguson lives there, essentially. Like, he's paying rent in that 26 to 2,800 RPM spin rate range. And there's a lot of carry. There's some run out of the hand as well. It was like a 20 IVB, like 10 to 11 horizontal, but guys just don't touch it within the zone. I think there is a legitimate chance that with some more strength, he can get closer to triple digits. And it's just finding a guy that throws those kind of pitches with bevy of strikes. It's pretty tough. And I understand, Colin Solano's left-handed is going to get some more leverage on his side because of that. But I think Ferguson has better stuff right now. The strike throwing is really, really impressive. If he's not the best pitcher in this prep class, he's the best right-handed pitcher at this stage. So I have to give Ferguson his flowers because he's been without a doubt the best arm I've seen in person this summer, and it really does take a lot for me to say that. There's a lot of guys to see at the summer events, and he stood out the most in 4 outings I've seen of him so far.
So, question for both of you, Tyler. You literally just answered it, but would you guys take Ferguson or Samir today?
I think based on the way we answered, I think where both of our answers are going to be based on the way we just talked about it. But I personally would take Samir. I haven't seen Ferguson. Only heard great things, like Tyler has just said, that he's been emerging his way to the top of the class. The spin rates or the spin traits do jump off the page, apparently. Peyton, I've been trying to rack my brain. Maybe you'll help me out. I'm usually good with names, and I can't think of it. Who was the guy at East Coast Pro, like the long blonde-haired guy that like hit the 3150 multiple times RPM? I'm blanking.
Is it Cam Bohm?
It might be. I know.
Ryder Simon?
Wait, yes, that's it. Yes.
Okay.
That's who it is. Absolutely. Great pull. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, guys are the best. I think he's the best spin capacity type guy I've seen so far this summer. But Ferguson, I've only heard great things. We both do. Peyton and I do both like Cam Bohm, though, because another thing, this isn't even like a debate between us, kind of like the Isaac Vidal thing. Cam Bohm threw 3 different fastball shapes in Hoover, and they were distinct. Like one of them was like very like 20 IVB crossing the y-axis. One was a more 17 and 7-ish, and another was like a sinker. Like that, if you're intentionally, and it was like multiple pitches at each shape too. So if you're intentionally throwing 3 fastball shapes at the age of 17, I'm in. So we're deviating off Peyton's question, but that just hearing the name Cam Bohm, I kind of had to throw that out there.
Can I continue on this tangent? Cam Bohm hammer curveball from a slot that's like here, like. It's impressive. He was a guy that pitched at USA, and it stuck out immediately. Like he breezed through lineups pretty easily across both outings, and like you'd mentioned, like multiple fastball shapes, 1 to 4. I think you can add some more velo to it, and the hammer curveball just out of the hand, doesn't have a ton of hump to it, so he's able to land it for strikes. He can bury it. Guys just haven't touched it. He's got a good feel for a changeup. So I am in on that profile as well.
I want to say one more thing on Cam Bohm. I want to say one more thing.
Go for it.
So obviously he's an Ole Miss commit. What the new pitching coach has done there. I believe this past year was his first year. It's quite unbelievable. Imagine when he gets like a slider or cutter or something. Just from like a pitch shape perspective, there's a lot that reminds me of Gage Wood with him. He's going to be a high follow for me. But I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah. So to answer your question of Samir Muhammad or George Ferguson, the answer is Cam Bohm.
The answer is Cam Bohm.
Yes.
Let's
see. So we've got we covered a solid amount of guys there. I would say like 20 plus. How about we do it for the college side?
Yeah.
Like
by all means.
We got some time to kind of kill here, but the college side, like I had mentioned before, I think there's a lot of intriguing arms in this class, but I want to start with the bats. And for me, I hadn't seen Brendan Larson, obviously, because, he's Canadian born. This might be the first time we ever see a Canadian be drafted 1-1, in my opinion. I think he's got the tools for it, but that's a discussion for another day. I would say there's a lot of corner profiles in this college bat class. Would you guys agree with that? And in terms of that, how do you project that moving forward? Do you think that having these kind of corner profiles kind of dilutes the class a little bit?
If I'll answer your question partly and then take another side of this too. I think there are some corner profiles for sure that stand out at the top, like your Brendan Lawsons and Brody Johnsons, and A-Rod might move to third. Guys like that, like a Tag Davis, for example. And I think you're getting a lot more of that than shortstop, which is that's the main point I want to make. I think if you're going to go take an industry consensus type of top, I don't know, pick your number in the draft, for college right now, I think you're going to get as many corner profiles as you would shortstops. And that's not super normal, I think, at least at this high of a level, because you're looking for high-level defenders, guys that can stick at the 6 long-term, and you don't have a ton of that. Even Brendan Lawson, like, we can sit here and debate if we think he's going to be shortstop or third, but the fact that it's not set in stone, like the only guys that I'm thinking at the top of the class off the top of my head that are like definite shortstops long-term are like Charlie Bates, Julio Solier, depending on what you think about him.
Riker Waite.
Yeah, Riker Waite. Matt Einich will be up the middle. I don't know if it'll be second or short, but it might be second. But yes, to your point, I don't know if it dilutes the class per se, but in general, the bats are definitely lower quality at the top than last year. Although last year, I mean, like Rock, Von Lackey, Drew Burris, pick your guys. That at the top of one class is just asinine compared to usual. Like, you really can't compare this to last year. It's more like a to 25 and 24 type of thing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the only reason why I kind of say that is, like, you look back at that 25 class, and I was talking to, I believe it was Jackson Thomas, who works with the Rangers. He used to be a guy that worked with us at P Live, and have a ton of respect for him and what he's been able to do in his career. But he was telling me that, like, you look at Wahia Aloy and you look at Alex Lodis, where they're shortstops, but they have these profiles of a typical, third baseman to a first baseman, like more power than hit, but obviously has the defensive capabilities to play at a premium position like shortstop, where you would expect more of a Carter Hadnot, for example, where it's a hit over power, and we're looking at a plus defender moving forward. So that's why I don't want to say like it really just makes this class terrible, but like I say, diluting it in a way to where you don't have these true shortstop profiles, and the guys that, like Lawson, for example, who it could be 70 grade power at the next level with the way that his approach changed this year. He hit the ball max 115, 21 home runs, all to the pull side, basically. So how does that compare if he does stay at shortstop? How do you evaluate that? And I guess it's a new age of scouting to where you get these guys with different, I would say atypical, profiles for certain positions that, you haven't seen in recent years, because these athletes are insane. This is an ever growing generation of freak athletes, I would say, is probably the best way to describe it.
I will say quickly to add on to that, the lack of, how do I word this? The amount of shortstop, solidified shortstops at the college level that you're losing this year at the top, I think you're gaining that on the prep side. Because, I mean, at the prep side, you're Max Hemingway.
Take your pick.
Dylan Seward, yeah. Butler, Hadnot, I can go on. Leo Knockley, I can go on. Graham Houston. They're all going to stick there, I think. Long-term, it's pretty set in stone. So college, you might not have as much of it, but if you want to take your chance on defensive value, I think high school might be the route this year.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. Peyton, do you have any thoughts before we kind of start talking about our guys here on the college side?
Yeah, no, I think Josh hit the hammer, or hit the nail on the hammer. You got the
right ingredients. You got the hammer and the nail.
Yeah,
I don't know what you're doing with it.
Anyways,
are we hitting the hammer with the nail on this one? Are we like?
Yes. Well said, Josh. Yeah, I think just like what we just said, it's just your pick of prep guys on the prep side with shortstops, and yeah, I'm in my own blender right now.
He's frazzled. He needs a 30-second timeout.
Oh man, yeah. If it helps, it is 9:20 at night Eastern time, so
not in Birmingham. This is before Peyton's bedtime. He's got to pick things up here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Hey, I'm just saying, if you want to have some coffee, I got some right here. I'll send it your way. So let's kind of start with our guys here. And, Josh, I'm going to start with you on this one and let Peyton take a minute to gather his thoughts here. But
Go to the corner and take 10.
You're in timeout, sir. I'm kidding. But yeah, Josh, like, give me some bats here, man. That I know we just talked about all these corner guys, but like, who stuck out to you on the college side so far?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all, I could talk about prep guys for a while. I've gotten deeper into that the past couple of years, but college is my bread and butter. College draft guys is truly where I thrive, and so I'm glad to get to talk about this side. I have a feeling with the guys that we talk about for college, it's going to be similar to prep, where it's like we're trying to go with the guys that aren't at the very top of the board to give some lower guys some shine. Maybe at some point, I don't want to not spoiler, or I don't know the word I'm looking for here. I don't want to say anything we haven't discussed off air, but at some point when we come out with lists, we can do talk about the very top of the prep and college class when those lists come out. But today we'll go just guys that have stood out to us. I'll go with a couple of those on the college side. First one, I've seen him in multiple places. I saw him in Omaha most recently. In the midst of a loaded catcher class this year at the top of the college class, my favorite is Jimmy Janicki from Troy, which, if we're being real, the only big negative I see from him is the level of competition he's playing against in college in the Sun Belt. But when he went to Omaha, he stood out fully. And I was very impressed by him for a lot of different reasons. It's 6'4", 220, maybe 230-ish, I want to say. He's going to be just over 21 on draft day, so not the oldest guy. You get a little bit of youth there. The bat to ball has been great. It's 19% whiff this past year. I think it was 13 or 14% whiff in 25. Granted, like I said, if you want to draw that up to competition, fine, you can do so. I'm going to choose to believe it's just elite contact that's going to stick long term. It was around 20-ish% whiff against spin too. He sees breaking balls really well. Great end zone contact rates, which I hit on earlier. Teams are looking for to draft at the next level at a higher rate now. He's a little aggressive. The chase rates are a little high, but he doesn't strike out a ton. He's disciplined late in counts. He might be aggressive early, but he chooses his spots. And I think that's really promising to see. He also keeps the ball in the air very often. I think the ground ball rates were lower than 30 last year, lower than 30%. Gets to his pool side well. The 90th EV was 110 this year or something. It's plus power. If you want to call it double plus, I hear you out. I might even lean that way. We'll cross that road when we get there. He's a great framer behind the plate. There's a lot of discussions about the state of framing in the game with wherever ABS goes, how much it matters. But as it stands right now, framing is very valuable in college and at the next level, and I think he has a lot of upside there. He will definitely stick behind the plate, although he could play third. Some think. I think that you're wasting a little bit if you don't keep him behind the plate. He looked also in Omaha. I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, I was only there for the first 4 days this year, and of those 4 days, I think he had the two hardest hit balls. He had a 111 and a 112. So that's against Ole Miss and West Virginia. So you can't really say anything about Sun Belt competition there. It was over 1,000 OPS, 21 home runs, 20-something 25-ish doubles this past year. I love Jimmy Janicki. He'll be top 5, top 7 college guy for me. He's my favorite of that loaded catcher class that has, I take that back. Gavin Kelly can play really. I like Gavin Kelly better, but he's catcher second, whatever you want to do with him. Of the solidified catchers, Janicki's my favorite. Another guy, this is every year I have one guy on the college side that I'm way higher on than everybody else. Last year for a while it was Logan Hughes, and then everyone ended up coming around to that, and he was taken 17th overall. This year I think I've pegged my guy, and it's pause. This year I think that it's a guy that Tyler's going to see a lot of, and especially in the Raleigh area. And I think that I don't really know why he couldn't be a top 2-ish round guy. Mikey Ryan, shortstop at NC State. There's so much to like here. It's a shorter guy. He is right-handed, so you're not getting a ton of value there. 6 foot, 185-ish. I think he's going to be young on draft day. I'm not sure if he'll be If he is going to be 21, it'll be barely 21. Phenomenal in zone contact rates too. Doesn't swing and miss a ton. The swing and miss against spin is a little concerning. That is where I will wave a red flag a little bit. I'd like to see that improve. But the power's there for his size. The power's there. 108 90th EV, I want to say. He's a smooth defender. Gets to the pool side exceptionally well. He looked great in Charlotte for the ACC tournament when Tyler and I were there, and in Auburn for the Auburn Regional. He looked phenomenal. He put on a show against UCF that first game. I'm a victim to when I see guys in person that look really good, no matter what they do the rest of the way, that sticks in my head, which is kind of why I'm higher than A-Rod than most people because of what he did in Omaha. We'll cross that road when we get there. That's a different story. Mikey Ryan's one of those guys too. I don't think he struck out once in the 4 or 5 games combined between the ACC tournament and the regionals. He might have struck out once. Took his walks. He batted around 500. It's an all-around great profile. I think he's one of the solidified shortstops long-term. The glove, the range, everything about it's really nice, I think. And I'd love to see people come around to it more a little bit because I think Mikey Ryan's got a real shot to be a guy that gets a lot of helium in the next few months.
So 2 things I want to touch on there for both Ryan and Janicki here. Ryan finished the year at NC State like hitting 400 or something. Like the second half was insane for him. So I love the pull there. He was very impressive. Him and Sherman Johnson were like 2 guys I really like had glued my attention to during the latter half of the year when I went to see NC State. In with Janicki, so gonna have to give a shout out to Gavin Applegate, he used to be a Troy student manager. He was with us in Charlotte, but he told me something interesting. Yeah,
and Philly,
and he is just a fantastic guy. First off, but I want to touch on this because I thought this was very interesting when he told me, and he may have told you guys too as well if you talked about Jimmy. So obviously only hit 2 home runs his freshman year. Lots of ground balls. You know, the potential was there, but it never really was fully realized. He switched to a no stride swing this year and 21 home runs, 26 doubles. From what Gavin had told me, Jimmy said it felt so much more comfortable for him. And it obviously the results showed out. Like he turned into, I would say, probably the best mid-major bat in the country last year. I don't think there's anybody that would argue that. Or if there is, I'd say there's very little in terms of opposition to that. You know, I think when you're looking at Janicki, like at the same time too, this is a guy that was a true linebacker that got D1 offers in high school. He runs very, very well. I'm very much sold on this. Like, again, when you mentioned that he was hitting balls 111, 112 against Ole Miss and West Virginia, no stride. You don't find that very often. And the fact that he's comfortable with it and is producing the way that he does is fantastic. And I was hoping to see him this summer. He had a hand injury at USA and wasn't able to play. But, you know, I'm fully in on the Jimmy Janicki train. Go Troy. Go Trojans. Skylar Meade, fighting Skylar Meads, whatever you want to call them.
I also didn't mention, Skylar Meade, new big extension, over 500 a year. Shout out. Another weird thing with Janicki, I forget it is pronounced Janicki. I learned that at Omaha. I have to train myself. Yeah, Janicki. He's got the weird, like, he sets up in his stance kind of like, it's like Shohei Murakami-ish. I think Deaton LeChance is the same thing, where it's like outstretched hands, but still like, it's a weird operation, but the results speak for themselves. We noticed that in Omaha when we saw it in person from the side, from behind the plate. It's kind of odd compared to what you think, kind of like you mentioned, without a stride, weird hand setup, but he gets to his spots, he keeps his barrel through the zone, and he, you know, has tons of juice he gets to. So it's fascinating. I can see where the swing itself and the mechanics would kind of be a turnoff, but I'm personally not, and I think the results speak for themselves. And at the college level, you have to listen to the results sometimes and what the stuff under the hood's telling you. So I'm all in.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Peyton, who do you got for some college bats?
So the first guy I want to mention is Charlie Bates. Easily could have made, had plenty of offers in the draft, but chose to go to Stanford. Had a fine freshman year. 270 average, I believe, like on base around 320. Played outfield every game, I believe, just about. And then, in year 2 with the Cardinal, was the shortstop for him. Again, I think it was pretty similar, 272, on base around 400. So he was on base obviously more often. There's a ton to like. He doesn't miss much in zone. I think I had him at like an 8% in zone whiff, 35% hard hit rate. Lefty against lefties, he's surprisingly, it's very unorthodox when comparing, like when looking at left on left, but most of his damage was on the inner half against left-handers, which I found pretty interesting. Crushes anything down in the zone against righties. I would like to see him lift the ball a little bit more. I believe his ground ball rate is like close to 50%. Max EV 109. It's 109 or 110. But again, it's a guy that doesn't really whiff much in zone. Pretty sturdy swing decisions. Good athlete. Defensively, there's a little bit that could be cleaned up. I think there was about 15, 16 errors this past year, but him and Archer Horn, I gotta imagine Archer Horn's going to be getting reps at least to start at second base, and they're going to be one of the top middle infields on the West Coast.
The country.
But country. Yeah, you could say that too. Second guy I want to mention is, vaguely brought him up earlier, is Brody Johnston at Vanderbilt. I was super high on this guy also out of high school. And, his freshman year, it was good. He was a starting third baseman for Vanderbilt. But when you look at some things under the hood, there were some things that could be cleaned up. His freshman year, 260, 10 walks, which I still like. We're in 2026. I'm still trying to, register that with almost 70 punch outs. But he cleaned a lot of that up this past season, 333. He cut his strikeouts down by almost 30%.
Yeah.
Like his K to walk ratio his freshman year was almost 7. And it just about went to 1-to-1, 35 walks to 48 punch outs. WRC plus was up 50 points. So I have a question for both of you guys. My calcs should be a little bit off here. Do we want to? We're not wanting to. I'm asking you guys. What was Brody Johnston's hard hit rate last year?
If I remember correctly, it might have been like 58 to 60%. It was very high.
I'm gonna say.
I remember. Yeah. Like,
since you're asking the question, it's gonna skew my answer. I'm gonna go high. I'm gonna say 63.
I have 50%.
Oh, okay.
Could be off there.
See, to be fair, I answered so highly it's just because you're asking the question. I thought it was going to be something gaudy. Yeah.
But basically the point I'm trying to get at is every other ball he connected with was tattooed. 113 max. For a guy that hits for power as he does, the end zone whiff or the whiff concerns aren't as drastic as his peers in the class. Fly ball rate just about 40%. Sees pitches middle to outer half against both lefties and righties really well. And granted, like, he got a lot of pitches to hit this past year just because, frankly, I had Vanderbilt in my in my Omaha 8 2 weeks before opening day. And granted, the offense wasn't great in the year, so guys were going after him. I'm interested to see what that progresses in year 3. But you could easily convince me that Brody Johnston come next July is a top 50 pick. Absolutely. So yeah, extremely high on those two guys as we enter the offseason here.
Since you asked a question about Brody Johnson, I'm gonna ask a question to the two of you about Charlie Bates, the other guy you talked about. Now, y'all could hold different opinions on this than me. So if you do, speak now or forever hold your peace. I don't know if y'all have done, if you've like really dug into tool grades specifically yet, but definitively, emphasis on the word definitively. Is there any tool of Charlie Bates that you would say is definitely below like a 50 or 45 at least? Like anything that like, there's nothing to me. I think it's a very, to say it again, like I said earlier, safe floor profile.
So I guess we're gonna preface with this because like this year's draft rankings, I want to employ scouting grades on them. So I've been working on that off camera, for the past, I would say, month or so at this point. With Charlie Bates, I have 55s across the board, except for the power. I think the power is kind of more so like 45. I could see the argument for a 50.
Yeah.
So that's where I would put the 45 on him. Because I think you mentioned like the max EV is 109, 110. And obviously you're going to lose a couple miles an hour going from middle to wood. So that kind of equates out to like, max EV is like 107 on a higher scale with like a 90 of like 105, 104, 105. So I would say it's just under average power for me, but I could definitely see a world where like he gets to average power at the next level.
For the record, that's exactly how I would have answered it. I have 50s or better across the board, except power. I've flirted between 45 and 50. I guess we disagree, like, because Peyton mentioned this. I think the glove could be plus just from what I've seen. Could be. I'm not saying it is, but like 55, 60-ish, I'm around there right now. But I asked that to further the points that Peyton was making, to say I don't know exactly if he's going to be a 4 to 5 WAR per year player at the next level, but I think he could definitely be a big league starter pretty solidly. I think there's like a safe floor there that he'll work his way through the minors eventually and become a big league second baseman or shortstop somewhere along the line.
Maybe you could put him in center field too.
Go back to where he started with Stanford.
Yeah, that's true. He's done it in the past. I think his tools play a little better in the dirt, but I think outfield, like there's, if needed, he can be a utility guy.
I agree with that. And also, I know, Peyton, you mentioned the hard hit rate on Brody Johnson, and you calculated pretty well. I have 51% on my end. So,
51. Okay.
So, yeah, you weren't off by much. So, wanted to put that out there. So, I guess it's going to be my turn for the bats. And we kind of spoiled this a little bit before talking about some of these true shortstop profiles. So, I'm going to talk about one of them in Julio Urias. Boston College, we look at what Boston College has done recently. Obviously, they have Sal Frelick and Cody Morissette a couple years ago, but they haven't really produced bats at a high clip ever, admittedly. But this year, they've got a good core of infielders, and I think Solier is the best of the bunch. Like, I have an above average hit tool. Like, he didn't really play a ton his freshman year coming out of Puerto Rico, I believe is where he's from, but had a breakout sophomore campaign for the Eagles this year. No whiff rates over 25%. There are some concerns about, velocity, I think. But I think at the end of the day, like, it was something like an 85% contact rate. Enzo rates are great. Doesn't chase a ton. And then you also look at the ability to produce power. He is not the biggest guy in the world. If I remember correctly, he is about like 6'1", 200 maybe. Let me see what I have him officially listed as. 6 foot 187.
Yeah.
So obviously not the biggest guy, but he's gotten a 109. I've seen him hit a ball 109 in person. I believe he's gotten closer to 113 on a couple of balls, and it's a high ground ball rate. Like, the power is a bit diluted because of that, but you go to the Athens Regional, and granted, yes, that ballpark's a trampoline, but he's hitting balls to dead center at like 107, 108 on a line, and he creates a ton of bat speed for his size. It's impressive torque. He's a really, really big athlete, which just continues the trend of big-time athletes we've been talking about. And then also you go to shortstop, and it's rangy, it's bouncy, it's pause. It's impressive what he's been able to do at the 6, and there's good arm strength. There's a couple plays where I've seen like throwing across his body is a little bit of a tougher ass, but that is also just something insanely tough to do where you're going to your right and having to throw a cross body as a shortstop. So he gets a little leeway there, but in terms of the ability to stick at shortstop and play it well, he's, in my opinion, above average to plus glove. If you can iron out some of the rushing of the plays a little bit, there are some throwing errors this year that, can definitely use some cleanup at the next level. But I feel pretty solid about the body control and the ability to be as rangy as he is. So I'm impressed with his profile. Like, if he can definitely lift the ball more this year and still maintain that power and hit tool, I'm sold. It's a top 50, top 75 prospect in the class from a school that's not necessarily known for producing quality bats like that. Mentioned South Frelick. Morissette was a second rounder or third rounder in that draft as well. They haven't really had anybody since, so we'll see what Solier can do. Outside of him, we're going to go with another. I don't know if we can say he's a definitive shortstop at this stage, but it's the guy that manned shortstop for West Virginia's run to the Omaha this year with Gavin Kelly. That infield duo was pretty solid. Matthew Einich, who he was at Ohio his freshman year, was very, very impressive. Elite bat the ball skills, walked more than strike out. He had some underlying power there, but he goes to West Virginia. He's steady as a rock at shortstop. And, I would say the arm has some question marks at the next level. I think it's good enough to start at shortstop, but probably a second baseman moving forward. But for the sake of college and watching him this upcoming year, he's going to be the shortstop for the Mountaineers. But the bat, for me, it might be a 70 grade hit tool in terms of combining the bat the ball skills, the ability to lace at both sides of the field. It's very impressive. He can run very well too. There's not a ton of power there. I would say it's more gap to gap with, I would say 40 grade exit velocities moving forward. It's not a guy that's going to prioritize the hit tool, but you get a potential 60 hit, 40 power with, I would say, average defensive shortstop. Maybe you move him in second base and he kind of fits better there. It's a solid up the middle profile that guys will enjoy. You think of like a Mitch Voigt situation where obviously Voigt kind of, surged forward late in the cycle and ended up being a first rounder for the Mets in 25. I think Einich can definitely fit the kind of Mitch Voigt mold, but is already at that level at this point. So both Solier and Einich, I adore as like these guys that can stick at shortstop and have some plus tools, above average to plus tools that really stand out, that will help him in the draft rooms.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that you mentioned that about Einich's hit tool, because literally like last night, 24 hours ago, I was going through some tool grades for various college guys, and Einich was one of them. And I sat there and flirted between a 60 and a 70 on the hit, kind of like you just mentioned. I landed on 60, but the bat to ball is better than anyone at the consensus top of the college class this year, I'm pretty sure, unless I'm blanking on somebody. It's ridiculous. The power, like you said, it's 40, 45-ish power with, the arm might be what makes him stick at second base long term. But I think there's a lot to like there for sure. And Solier, kind of like you mentioned, I swear there's like me saying this about him and Charlie Bates makes it seem like I just throw out high tool grades willy-nilly. I don't. I just like these two guys. I don't have lower than a 50 on anything for Solier either. I think there's a lot to like there. And in Charlotte, I think the glove, like you said, I think you said it very well. He rushes sometimes, but you can totally see the clay there. And I think there's a lot of potential long-term if he can become more composed at the 6. He can stick on the dirt long-term, and the bat speaks for itself. So I'm a big fan of both of those guys.
Absolutely. And now we've got to the final part. I know we're about an hour and a half into this, but still got some college arms to talk about. And college arms class looks really, really good this year. I think we talked about it at the top of the show, but obviously Dax Whitney being out it's not a detriment to his profile whatsoever. He proved to us within the year and a half, I would probably say 2 years at this point because he kind of had the injury in early May. That he is impressive. And like, I think on my scouting report, just going through it, I put a 7 on the fastball and then 3 6s and a 55 on command. I can't recall the last time I've put those kind of grades on the pitcher in maybe Paul Skeens, you know. And I know last year I compared Rock Chalowski to Paul Skeens and kind of got lit up for it. But I think when you look at Dax Whitney, legitimately might be the best college pitcher since Paul Skeens.
Can I say I've gotten some heat for this? I still personally, not to spoil anything, even with the injury, I have Dax Whitney number 1 of college guys. Is it crazy to say that he could have 4+ pitches?
I mean, I have it down on my report, so I fully am with you on that one.
I don't know what numbers you have. I know you mentioned the fastball. I have a 7 on the fastball and a 6 on the other 3, along with, did you say 55 command?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have too. I think, and that's the number 1 guy in the college class for me. I understand the TJ, like I understand the injury stuff. I get that. But if that's your starting point before the injury, is that what we just talked about? Then I mean, like, even if you come back and if you're like 95%, like, good Lord, give me that anyway. Like, I know Peyton's been in love with Dax Whitney since coming out of high school.
Yeah, and we're a clean sweep here. Yeah, that's not ridiculous. I mean, it is what you want those type of pitches to do. He does it.
Great way of putting it.
So, yeah, I remember his first college start came against Auburn.
Yeah.
In Arlington, and I was just sitting there. I was like, "Holy smokes!" Like this guy's incredible. But yeah. I think he hit 100 on that pro radar in Arlington. If it wasn't that, it was 99. I'm gonna have to look at the plot that I pulled after that game. But
I know he did this year against Baylor and wherever they played that.
Was that Arizona?
Round Rock, I think. Actually.
Yeah, Frisco.
Yeah.
Okay,
Frisco. Yeah, and the 17 strikeout game that he had, I know he touched 100 a couple times. He might have grabbed a 101, actually. I know 101's his peak, I'm pretty sure. So that would 17 strikeout performance, hitting 101 in the game with it, that would make sense. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah. In like, so I had actually watched that start not too long ago, kind of going through the report. And what I like to go through some bad starts, some really good starts, obviously, to kind of compare like changes in between. So like what's causing some of these things to kind of unwind, like how's command kind of fall back, how does he react? I watched Hagen Smith strike out 17 and 6 in person. Watching the film of Dax Whitney against Baylor and striking out 17 and 8, it's very close to that. Like just watching him steal strikes with the curveball, that thing just, it's a monster. Is the best way to describe it. And like he can command 98 to 100 just anywhere he wants to. And it was really, really impressive. And having to change up, 85, 88, I think. Like you have that kind of velo separation and you throw 100. Yay. Like that's already really good.
He'll spin super well on the changeup too. Like it all comes together really well. The whiff rates on the slider, the 4th pitch we haven't talked about, I'm pretty sure we're above 50%.
51%. 51%.
That's along with the other 3 monster pitches we've talked about. So
I've got it right here. So his four seam is 37. His slider is 51. His changeup is 58, and his curveball is 42.
For reference, I'm going to assume people listening to a draft podcast in August, know everything very well. For anyone that doesn't, 37% whiff on a fastball is just stupid. Absolutely dumb.
Elite isn't.
And that's not a small sample either.
No.
He threw his fastball over 50% of the time.
That's nuts.
And he had to have thrown, I always assume this sample is 1,000 pitches thrown total. Or close to it.
I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's close. It's close to
over the course of this. Is this just 26 or is this including 25?
This is 26.
Okay, then I would imagine it's probably a little like 800, 900-ish, I would imagine.
Yeah.
My head.
I don't have the total number on this one, but
yeah. To your point, it's close, and that's a huge sample size, and 37% whiff on a fastball with that much usage. Yeah, good luck. That's all I can say.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I think I have him 2 on mine. Like I have Brendan Lawson at 1, just because of the fact that if you have a case for a left side of the infield guy with 55 hit, maybe 70 power, you take that and you run with it. Like it's a very, very good bat. But now that we've gotten past the point where we're like in awe of Dax Whitney and his amazingness, Josh, I'm going to start with you on this one again. Talk about some of your arms, and there's one on there that I am very jealous that you took because I absolutely love this guy. So I'll let you start off.
Actually, I have a feeling which one you're referring to, but I don't know for sure. We'll see. These are a couple guys that, contrary to the other 3 demographics I've talked about, both of these guys have a lot of traction to be round 1, comp A round kind of guys, like first PPI round kind of guys at this point, projecting 11 months out. First one's a guy that was very raw and famous coming into college and still kind of raw at this point. Kason Evans from LSU. The results and the output in college in terms of just sheer counting stats hasn't been exactly what you would have expected, but under the hood, it's all still there. It's a very quick operation and gets lots of punch outs. I think it was 33% this past year with around 35% whiff overall. Still gets a ton of ground balls too. It's 52% ground ball rate. The arm slot helps that out a little bit because he can create 2 different fastball shapes from a low 3/4-ish slot. And you're probably thinking 33% strikeouts, 35% whiff, gets lots of ground balls. Okay, well then how does the dude allow runs? That covers most of it, right? Well, 11% walk rate will do that because he's the typical Ethan Lund is like this. I'm not sure if one of you is going to talk about him later, but Ethan Lund is of the same archetype. It was like Liam Peterson last year, but I think this is a little more extreme than Liam Peterson. The stuff is still big, though. It's 92 to 96 fastball mostly. He's grabbed 99, though. Multiple shapes, like I mentioned. The 4-seam shape isn't totally dynamic. It's like 18 and 11. Good, not great. The secondaries are really where he shines, though. It's a splitter. It's a slider. He's gotten over 50% whiff and about 35% chase on those secondaries combined. Huge depth on the splitter. Big velo drop-off. Comes out of the hand very similarly from the heaters. He does lack a little bit of depth on the breaking balls, but it plays. It plays off of the heaters really well. And it's an operation that I'm hoping really comes through and refines itself this year overall at LSU. Kind of like his counterpart, William Schmidt, same sort of deal. You're hoping those 2 that were really highly touted coming into college can put it together and be elite Friday, Saturday guys for LSU this year. I still think Kason Evans is going to be one of those athletes that finds his way into the first round no matter what he looks like from February to June and what the runs allowed look like. You got to look a little bit deeper than that sometimes, and I think it really stands out for Kason Evans. My second guy, I'm going to assume this is the one Tyler wanted to talk about because of what I heard he did at USA. Camden Clark from Southern Miss. I think there's just so much polish here, and kind of like Janicki. Is he playing the best competition all year long? No, but went to USA, looked really good. Has performed against power conference competition in the past, although granted this past year it was mostly in relief for Southern Miss, but I think it's something that can still translate to a starter's role. He's going to be young on draft day, 21.2 years old. Typical 3/4 slot. He gets to about 91, 94 with the fastball. Typically, he's grabbed 97. The strikeout to walk ratio is over 7. It's like 36% to 5%. He punches out a ton and he doesn't allow a lot of free passes. And that's pretty simple. That's a pretty simple way to look at a guy and be like, this is who I want on the mound for me. It's also, not only does he not walk guys, about 70% strikes, fills up the zone with conviction. He locates. And it's a big extension to the fastball, even though it is only low to mid 90s from the right side. It's 6.4 feet of extension. It jumps on you super fast. He moves down the mound really effortlessly. It's a big ride fastball, 21 inches of vert. Had greater than 30% whiff on the fastball this past year, like we were just talking about with Dax Whitney. That's nuts. About that same thing for chase too, and it's like maybe double plus carry, and that's why he got so much chase, because that thing can ride the top rail and just get in on batters super, super fast. And no matter what level he's playing at, I think it's going to translate. It's a mid-80s changeup, huge whiff in chase, like 45% whiff. Shape isn't it's good, not great. It gets a lot of fade off of the fastball. He can maybe dive into more. I think there's a chance. Big curveball shape, decent spin capacity. The breakers are a little slow. And he's pretty fastball changeup heavy. It's like 85% fastball changeup. But those two pitches, it's 2+ pitches in my opinion. Maybe the fastball's a 55. But I think that there is a real chance he can put that together, be a star for Southern Miss again this year, get them back to hosting. And I think he can work his way into the first round of the comp round this year, because there were only a few people that, like, after USA, like, honestly, the big takeaway I heard from a few people at USA was that this year the bats and carry were rough and the arms stood out, some more than others. And Camden Clark was one of the big ones that stood out. So people that haven't watched Southern Miss baseball a ton this year got to see him in person and just had the whoa, who is this guy takeaway.
Yeah, you definitely hit the nail on the head with the USA complex and collegiate national team this year. I mean, outside of like Gavin Kelly and Landon Harrison, there really weren't a ton of big performers. Obviously, Tate Davis went yard once. Riker White also did the same thing. But it was a lot of arms and a lot of really, really good arms. And, you know, I know you mentioned giving Clark like a 55 fastball. You know, he's 6'1", 200, but the ability to have the kind of extension numbers he has for his size, I'd say it's above average extension, 6.5 feet, and has a lower release slot that creates a really flat plane to the plate. Like we talk about vertical approach angle and being able to command the fastball on the top rail. There were some pitches this year when I was going through his report and, you know, crafting, I put a 6 on the fastball first off.
That's fair.
Which I never am going to find myself with a fastball average of like 93 going to put a plus grade on a fastball.
Yeah.
But when I saw the approach angle in the top third, he was putting some up there of like negative 3.75, which I would say the average around negative 4.2 on the other third for most guys. To do that and command it as well as he's been able to on the top rail is impressive. And I believe he had like a 50% whiff rate on the fastball alone. I think it was the only pitch that missed bats at USA, admittedly. But he was breezing through guys so easily with the fastball, he didn't need to use the secondary pitches.
Right.
And they were all, you know, chest-high fastballs that guys just couldn't touch. And if, you know, you look at, you know, we'll go with Tugboat. You know, Matt Wilkinson just made his debut tonight. Today's August 19th. You know, it's a Wednesday night. He just threw 2 shutout innings at the major league level, averaging 90 with the angles that he is able to produce on the fastball is a big key to that. And Camden Clark kind of fits that same mold. He throws harder. I do see a play or like an existence of where that is a plus fastball at the next level. If you add some more velocity to it, just with the fact that, maybe I'm definitely going to be the high guy on it, but I feel like that's the case.
I actually, hold on, let me look. I don't know for sure. I think I might have I do have a 6 on the fastball and the changeup and the command for what it's worth. I think
indication.
There we go. I think the release angle. The release height isn't as low as this, but kind of the way you're describing things reminds me of kind of like a Declan Dahl from last year, where I think he was like a 4.9 foot release height and Camden Clark's like 5'4". But I think it's even more of a testament to Clark that he can get those same kind of vertical approach angle metrics, along with getting the swing and miss at the top of the zone, the location from the low to mid 90s fastball, getting those same results and metrics from a guy who did it from an even lower slot. I think it's a testament to Camden Clark personally, because I think it can drop down to a little bit of a low 3/4, but based on the way his body moves, from what I've seen at least, USA might have been a little bit different. It might have been different in Cary, but like from what I've seen, it's the way his body moves. It's more of like a 3/4-ish slot, but he still gets the ball onto the top black from a lower angle than you would expect because of the way his body moves down the mound. And I think that's also, the extension, testament to that too. I think there's a lot to like there. He'll be a first round, or he'll have a first round grade for me more than likely.
Yeah, I agree. And also, a fun fact: he came from the JUCO. He was not at Southern Miss his freshman year. He was a JUCO cat, and comes out and makes those kind of like starts and performances that he did at Southern Miss this year is really, really impressive. So now that we've moved on from the Camden Clark tangent and how two of us really like him, I'm sure Peyton does as well. Peyton, who are your two guys that you want to talk about here?
So it's fitting that Josh stole one from you because I stole one from Josh when we were speaking earlier today. I'll kick off with Ryan McPherson from Mississippi State. Made 10 starts this year for the Bulldogs. I know he missed a good chunk of time with an injury. 3.5 ERA, just over 40 innings. Almost a solid 4 strikeout to walk ratio. 5-pitch arsenal. I think when you look at a right-handed starter, it's like Ryan McPherson is the epitome of that. Like it's a mid-90s heater. He's been up to 98.8 with it. Ability to just run it by you if you're left-handed or right-handed. He commands it well. That's the thing, because all 5 of his pitches, like he has over 50% strike rate with it, with all 5. The pitch I like the most with his arsenal, I don't know if it's like a kick change or just a traditional changeup grip circle. Makes sense. You guys know what his whiff rate on his changeup was?
I want to hold up. I want to say it's super high. I know, because I think I have a 6 on the changeup for him. I want to say it's got to be at least like 50, right?
It's 62%.
I was going to get 58%. So
yeah, 62%. And he's got like this short action, like cutter slider differentiation. So the cutter's got a little bit of lift, slider's got a little bit of sweep. There's a little bit of velo distinction there. He throws both of them primarily to righties. And he's got this curveball that's, again, like this 2-plane action. Gets pretty decent whiff against. It's like this low 80s, hammer. I would even argue on half the SEC teams, he would be the Friday guy for coming up this year. But yeah, I'm just saying because his teammates Tomas Valinkis.
Well,
yeah,
true, I didn't think about that. Sorry. Is there a team he wouldn't be the Friday guy for besides like Ole Miss, since Hunter Elliott's been their Friday guy for 19 years and they don't want to move him off that spot? Like, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Maybe Texas for Volantis.
Oh, true. Maybe.
What about Kason Evans or William Schmidt with LSU? What about them?
I like McPherson more.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. Aiden King with Florida?
If we're going in a vacuum of like who do I like more as a prospect and a college starter, I like McPherson better. But I mean, like, obviously Florida and Texas and whoever fans are gonna stick by their guy. And it's like if McPherson transferred in there, then they would, like, Aiden King and Volantis would still be the starter. But in a vacuum, like we're starting a team from scratch type of thing, I think McPherson's a Friday starter over both of them, although he just happens to be on
the same team. Yeah.
Now he just is the best Saturday starter in the country by a country mile.
Yeah. But wrapping up McPherson, the other guy I want to talk about is he was a reliever for most of the year. Sam Cozart with Texas, 2026 stopper of the year, freshman pitcher of the year. Got the invite to Team USA, but I think it came out a little earlier. He had foot surgery. He's out for the entire fall. again, another 5-pitch guy. And, when you look at these, these 5-pitch arsenals in a vacuum, odds are like their better pitches are like a breaking ball of some sort. I'd argue Sam's best pitch is his fastball. Like it is mid-90s. It's top rail. Guys just cannot hit it. Over 40% whiff rate on it. His splitter is bonkers. It's like this real kill spin, like 1,400, 1,500 pitch that he'll throw ahead and counts. This cutter that he has that's mid-eights, can mix it lefties or righties. A true sweeper that he's got, and then again another two-plane just vert drop curveball that's hovers around 80. This is a guy that gets down the mound like 6.5 feet of extension, sometimes more, and it's just powerful. And I wouldn't be surprised if he got his name called in the first round. As we come to July, I think that's pretty easy. I can see everybody's head nod. But yeah, no, he's gonna be fun to watch.
I agree. And also, again, son of Craig Cozart, who, pitching coach at UCF when they were national seed in the early 2000s, goes to be the head coach at High Point, very well respected, works with PG now, if I remember correctly. I've enjoyed my time talking to Coach Cozy. And also, it's Jacob's brother, who just got traded to the Angels Guardians in the Joe Adell trade.
Oh, yeah, Angels. Yeah, wow.
So yeah, like that family is impressive from an athletic standpoint. Also, if you hadn't heard, Sam Cozart has like size 18 feet and has to order custom shoes. So that was only mentioned a million times this year. And yeah, it is legit. That kid has legitimate flippers for feet, which I can't say anything. I'm a size 13.
I don't know that Angel Cervantes is a little dinosaur that he puts on the mound with him. Were y'all aware of that? That's news to me. I've never heard
did.
That.
He did.
He did it on the Cape.
Yeah, he did.
Isn't his name Terry or something like that?
I'm not sure.
I listened to Monty's interview with him, and I think they talked about it. I think it was Terry. It sounds familiar. But that's the other thing this past year. Every time you see them play, it's like, oh, by the way, it's like do you know Carter French from UNC is going to be a doctor? Like,
yes,
all anyone talks about.
Hey, did you guys know that Lucas Giolito, Jack Flaherty, and Max Fried were in the same rotation in high school?
Yeah.
Wait, don't know Clayton Kershaw and Matthew Stafford were high school teammates?
Wasn't Nick Foles also at that same school?
Maybe the same school. I know Highland Park.
I heard something about this.
Highland Park is a massive Dallas school, so that wouldn't shock me.
There's also 2 prep guys from Highland Park in this year's class that are pretty good, but that's a discussion for another day. All right, so kind of to wrap things up here, we're going to be closing out in 2 hours, which, hey, if you guys are still here listening to this, you guys are troopers. Well, we enjoy the fact that you guys are here. Clap, snap, do whatever you need to. Pat yourself on the back, please, because this is definitely a lot of fun for us to record, and I hope you guys enjoy it as well. There are 2 guys I want to touch on here, both lefties, which I haven't touched a ton on lefties tonight, so I want to make this my moment to do so. We mentioned Mississippi State, McPherson being the Saturday guy potentially for that rotation. The Friday guy, Thomas Valencius, follows Coach O from Virginia to Mississippi State. I believe his nickname is Tico in Starkville. I could be mistaken on that. But I believe he is going to be the best southpaw in this college class. And, seeing him as a freshman at Virginia, there was definitely potential there, but the command just wasn't necessarily there most of the time. But it's a guy that gets down the mound very well, deceptive, throws mid-90s, or he touched mid-90s at Virginia. He's now sitting mid-90s in Starkville with, I would say, a plus slider at this point. Plays off the angle very well. Again, deceptive. You don't see it very well. I remember seeing him at USA, they played the Appalachian League All-Stars. And I remember one specific at-bat where Hank Gomrich, who transferred from St. Louis to Texas Christian for this year, 4 pitches, 4 swings, 3 whiffs. And it was just spam slider and have fun. I don't think Gomrich had any idea how to see it out of the hand. And that's not to say Gomrich's a bad hitter. He was named an all-star to the Appalachian League team to face these guys. But Valencia's is such a tough at bat. It's a sinker with some carry. Like, I think you'd separate both fastball shapes at the next level, but it's primarily a sinker. It's going to come in on the hands and bore in on lefties. Commands the zone very well. The slider, he'll land for strikes. It's really, really, really good. Has fuel for an above average, so maybe even plus changeup as well. Like, he doesn't need to throw it a ton because the fastball slider combo has just been fantastic for him to this day. But the changeup has promise. I think you can add another bridge pitch in there. He has a curveball. He doesn't throw it a ton. I'm a big fan of Valencias right now, and I think there is a lot to like with that profile. Another lefty that we had, I don't want to say talked about. We had hinted at him earlier. Ethan Lund from Oklahoma State, who big jump this year in terms of stuff. Like, he's jumped into the mid 90s with his fastball, but it's the slider and the curveball. There's 2 pitches he has, and we talk about angles with fastballs and everything. They are important for breaking balls as well. You think of Hunter Dietz this past year, who I would say, I think I had a 55 on the fastball just because of the fact that it's not that he didn't throw it enough. I just think it's super steep. It's kind of Trey Savage-esque, and it kind of limits him a little bit despite the velo. But the breaking stuff just plays so well out of the hand. It creates an angle that's super tough on hitters for both lefties and righties. And Lund's the same way. He has crossfire across his body. Releases very, very tough to pick up on the breaking balls. They're basically downer curve and a gyro slider, essentially. The slider's the better of the 2, in my opinion. I think it's a plus pitch. Guys just physically could not touch it with USA, and it was very, very tough for lefties in particular from the angle that he throws from. It's not been a belt tough, but there's significant crossfire there. I think for me, you got to work on the command moving forward. Like, he's a guy that has a lot of really, really good stuff. There's a changeup in there too that he's going to work on as well. But like, the command was very inconsistent, I feel, from start to start. Like, even from inning to inning, it felt like the command would kind of go wayside for a bit, kind of come back. So working on that a little bit is going to help him a lot. But it's a good frame. I think there's going to be more weight added onto his frame to help him kind of throw strikes a bit more. And if that does happen, I think it's a legitimate top 2 upside or top 2 round upside with, first round traits to love there. So I'm going to put my name on those 2 guys so far to really, I don't want to say jump upwards because Valencias is going to be up there for us, but Ethan Lund definitely has a chance to be one of the top southpaws to go in this class.
I think Lund is he's a case that you see a lot with prep guys, that big stuff, terrible command lefties. You see that a lot with your Brody Bamilos of the world, whatever. Not only is Lund's stuff really big and the command bad, are y'all aware of what his walk rate was last year? Do y'all know the number by chance?
Oh, I was looking at this the other day.
It was 14%.
I was about to say whatever number you're thinking, think higher. And what Tyler just said, think higher. It's 17%.
Okay. I was kind of close.
Yeah.
But he struck out 38%. So over half of his at-bats are resulting in a strikeout or a walk in some fashion. The strikes were below 60%, but the stuff is huge. I mean, it's a very, very polarizing profile. I think that's the best word for it, because you'll see some people have him around. I've seen him as high as a top 20 pick, according to some. Seen him outside of the top 3 rounds because of the command for some. You'll see a lot of variance there. There's a lot of volatility in where he could end up 11 months from now. But I think to say there's not upside there, you're just kind of blinded to it. The upside's there, but the floor is very, very low.
I agree. And the thing with Lund, he did throw more strikes at USA, seeing him for 2 outings. And these weren't one inning stretches where you're just airing it out and having fun. I think they were both 2 inning stretches for him. And I would say the strikes jumped from, if I had to guess, it was like 58% in college. I would have to say like 62, 63%, which is respectable. Which, granted, it's only 4 innings, but it's an improvement upon what we had seen on film, at Oklahoma State. And that's what kind of makes me, look at, you add some like 15 pounds of muscle and you clean up the mechanics a little bit. You get a command jump with that, I feel. And it's just something that I look at and go, you see the stuff, it's fantastic. If he's a first rounder as a result of that, I fully believe it. So, that's where I'm kind of at on him. But I do believe that, like, if it doesn't come back around, we're looking at a guy as like, maybe a third rounder where a team takes an upside or takes a risk with the upside and see if they can kind of turn him away from like a Burl Caraway kind of arm to, could this be like a legitimate top of the line starter at the next level? And I think that's what it's going to boil down to eventually with Lund is do the strikes come around? If they do, first round. If they don't, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark. So I think it is definitely time for us to kind of get off and go enjoy our nights. So again, thank you guys if you made it this far. Make sure to do whatever you want. Share this podcast with whoever, family, friends, neighbors, your dog, your cat. My cats watch these podcasts. I think they really enjoy it.
Don't hit a hail in the hammer. Or a nail in the hammer.
We still haven't got it right.
How did you mess it up in a different way?
Oh my gosh.
We're not editing this out, by the way. This is going to stay in.
Oh man.
This is how you have fun on a podcast, guys. I'm just putting it out there. So you gotta have some fun. You gotta have some fun when you're working, man. So that's the way I look at it and live my life that way. So, but again, share this with whoever you'd like. For me, for Jared, for Josh, for the entire College Baseball Show crew, On the Clock crew, Peyton, Adrian, Connor, everybody does a fantastic job. Pat yourself on the back for a solid 2026. I'm excited to see what we do in 2027. Boards will be coming out soon. Hoping September release in some capacity. And obviously we're going to have a lot more content from our adventures this summer, and fall ball's around the corner. So we'll see what happens. But until next time, for everybody here, for on the clock crew, peace out. Have a good night, and we will see you all next time.